Welcome to the United Stands. I'm Mark Goldbridge and this is your latest Manchester United news as the morning after the night before and Amorim's superb performance for Sporting against Man City resonates through the press and through the fan base. Our rivals scared. We'll talk about that. But also we've got some very interesting quotes coming out from Ruben Amorim himself, basically saying no more excuses. You know what you're getting with me. I can only do so much. It's now all eyes on INEOS. I mean, this is what they wanted. This is what they did nearly a year ago. They bought into Manchester United. They kept the Glazers in the football club and it's them on trial. I do feel that with Ten Hag, because he was a Glazer appointment, INEOS could always be behind that and go, well, he wasn't our guy, he wasn't our guy. They've picked Amorim. I think they're right to pick Amorim, but there is no point in buying somebody a 5-star hotel in bloody Miami and then not getting them the flight. There is no point getting an F1 car and getting Lewis Hamilton to drive it and not giving him any wheels. There are no more excuses. We know what Amorim can do. We know that 3-4-3 works against the Premier League club. We've seen it before. And we have the right manager. So I say it's over to INEOS. It's over to what you can do because we've got a lot to get into on the show this morning. Also, can I just say, look, hardcore people will know who are here every morning. A couple of mornings ago, we had an email from a Sporting fan called Pedro. Brilliant bit of information on the morning show a couple of days ago, in depth about Amorim. Well, he's done it again. He's just sent an article into a Sporting into a Portuguese newspaper, and he's given me the detail of what's going to be in it, and it's brilliant around recruitment for Amorim and how so many of his players change position. They come in at a certain position and he turns them into other positions as well. So we'll talk about that as well. But let's get into what Amorim had to say because there's a few interesting comments. What I can tell you is that it doesn't mean anything in particular in relation to beating Man City. Don't take anything from this. We cannot transport one reality to another. Manchester United cannot play the way we play and we will have to adapt. Boom, shakalak. That is the biggest statement he's come out with yet. And it is absolutely imperative that we take notice of it. And I think this is why if you want to play the blame game or you want to put focus on anything, it has to be on INEOS. They have brought their guy in. I know it. You know it. And Amorim's just said it. He cannot take a 4-1 win for Sporting against Man City and make Manchester United do it. He can't transfer that to that. He has to be given the players, the patience and the environment to do it. You just can't do that. It's like getting Oasis to play at Wembley and then asking them to play in your back garden with no electricity. Like there has to be the environment, the tools to do the job. And I saw a lot of people last night going, oh, we're back, we're cooking, rivals are scared. I don't think they're scared at all. Were they scared when we got Ten Hag, who took Ajax to titles in the Champions League semi-final, playing good football? Were they scared when we got Jose Mourinho, who wins the title at every club he's at in the first 2 years when he came to Manchester United? No. I think rivals are looking at us going, he's a really good manager, watch Man United fucking ruin him. That's what Man United are doing. That's what rival fans are doing. When we buy a good player, they just sit there and go, good player, but, watch Man United mess him up. Oh, good manager, watch Man United mess him up. And that's the message this morning. If we are going to get on the hype train of Amorim because of last night, that's great. It's exciting. But if we are going to go, we're going to go from that to that. God, look at the last 10 years. I think finally we might be moving into an era where as fans we wake up and go, no more excuses. It's not about the manager. I never felt it was, since Jose, I've never felt it was about the manager. I didn't think it was really about Ollie. I didn't think it was about Jose. I didn't think it was about Ranić. And I don't really think it was about Ten Hag. I'm not saying none of them should have been sacked, but I don't think that they were exclusively the problem at Man United. And I'll say now, if Amorim gets sacked, I don't think he'll be exclusively the problem as well. I think he is a manager that if you give him the right environment, and look, he ain't Pep Guardiola at Bayern Munich. He ain't Pep Guardiola at Barcelona. Oh, he's a good coach when he's got Messi or the best team in Germany. This is a good coach with a club that hadn't won the title domestically for 20 years. This is a coach that's gone from low level to Braga to Sporting. This is a coach that has a pedigree. And this is the right coach to bring to Manchester United. But the excuses are gone. That 3-4-3 can work against the Premier League side. We saw it last night. This manager can beat Premier League opposition. What you've got to do is give him what is required at Manchester United. Now, there's a few areas I want to go into today, and I want to get into your comments, but it's how we do that, and it's how long we get there. And, you know, are rivals scared? I don't think they're bloody scared. I don't think they're scared at all, because I think rivals can be quite realistic. They can look at your club and go, I hope he's playing because he's shit. I hope you keep that manager because he's shit. You know, that's what rivals do. You know, they can actually be quite good barometers for what's going on. And they will look at that Sporting team and go, right, Amorim has got a team of players that are really talented, really hard-working, and want to work for each other. Man United have got a bunch of players they can't sell, that aren't talented and don't want to work with each other. Straight away, he's fucked. And that's what rivals will think. And also, I've got United fans going at, oh, we need Diamonde, we need Quenda, we need Holmlund, and we need Gyökeres. We need those 4 players just for a start. And I'm like, this is a really good starting point, because Gyökeres, Christian Falk, said this morning that Man United will rival Bayern Munich for Gyökeres this summer. Will we? Will we really? Gyökeres contract 2028. Got fucking 4 years left on his deal. He ain't going to cost anything less than 60, 70 million pounds. Holmlund 2028. Not going to cost anything less than 50 million pounds. Diamonde is 20 years of age, 2027 contract, not going to cost you anything less than 50 million pounds. And the same with Quenda, who's the fullback winger, who's 17. So if we think we're going to go and just take Sporting Lisbon players, we're having a bloody laugh. Look at how they dealt with us with Bruno Fernandes. Look at how they dealt with us with Amorim. Unless you've got 200 million pounds in your skyrocket, you're not going to get those players out of Sporting. And even if you did, would they suit the Premier League? Would they suit Manchester United? Which serves my purpose. We've got a manager for a project, but he's going to have to work with what he's got, and he's going to have to bring in new players, because we can't just take the Sporting project and bring it to Manchester United. Geordie says, one thing about last night shows that 3-4-3 works against the champions, so now it's down to the players to either sink or swim. Then it's on INEOS to ship off the players that don't want want to work. Exactly, Geordie. Look, there's a lot of Amorim quotes to get into. Obviously, if you've tuned in a little bit late, he's basically saying we can't transport last night to Manchester United. You cannot play the same way. They have to adapt. So, very, very good answer to not get carried away by that. But one of the favourite things I heard from Amorim last night was actually what he had to say about how they played. He basically said that, look, Pep is so much better than me at the moment, but I believe a lot in my new club. We will start from a lower level. Maybe I can say that, and we will improve the club. Let's see. He says, after Sunday, I'll start a new journey at a new club. We need to play these teams in a different way. We cannot defend like this, and I have to improve as a coach. I loved that, because you know what? Many of you joined me last night for the watch-along, and it was fantastic. It was really great. And I think a lot of people watched it probably for one of the first times watching Amorim 90 minutes, and certainly against the Premier League club. So it was really, really good. But if you watched the game properly, Man City had over 70% possession. They could have been 3-0 up at half-time. Second half, Sporting were very, very good. But Amorim is right, and I love what he's saying. He's basically saying, even though we won 4-1, I want to play in a different way against teams like this. We cannot be defending like this. I need to improve as a coach, because what did happen yesterday is that Sporting were really good in their ability to transition quickly and unselfishly and create big chances, but they weren't able to get hold of possession. And I think that's what he's talking about. Look, we beat Man City 4-1, but we defended a lot, and that's not how I want to play. I want to be able to take these teams on in a better way. So that is incredibly positive, because they've just beaten Man City 4-1, but he's looking at the game itself and going, well, yeah, we won the game, but look at the way it played out. We didn't have a lot of the ball. So I think that's really, really positive from Amorim as well. Best thing about Amorim's appointments is it brings clarity around where responsibility lies. As fans, we know who is in charge of what's going on, says Patrick. Magni, welcome to the Members Club. I think what Patrick says is the big message that needs to get through to this fan base, because we know what can happen after what. Look, part of me is expecting, part of me is prepared that when we play Man City next month or Arsenal next month, we'll get our arse handed on a plate. Because I don't think a manager is responsible for that. And I don't think a manager is the problem for that. I think we know what the problem is for that. I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing if the fans can go, well, this is not on the coach, he's only just come here. This is another reminder of the problems at the football club. And I think that's something that we need to look at. And that's the message really, is that there is definitely nothing wrong with this manager. There is nobody out there this morning going, I think we've gone for the wrong guy. We should have gone for Tuchel. No one's doing that. We know we've got the right guy. And maybe we've had the right guy before, but we need to learn from that. We know we've got the right guy. And I'm almost looking at it this morning going, if he's sacked, let's pretend Amorim gets sacked. Let's predict why now, so that when it does happen, we know. And if Amorim gets sacked, it won't be because of him. It won't be because he's a bad coach. It won't be because he didn't have a style of play. It won't be because he's not a motivator. It won't be because he's not good enough, because he is good enough. It will be because of the same reasons we've had before. And that's why, look, the Ten Hag era is over. We won the FA Cup, that was great, but we're hitting the reset button managerially again. I think every fan needs to try and go into this new era with the mentality of, it is so bloody obvious what failure is and what the cause of that failure is. It will be INEOS or it will be the players. And I would say, who's got more control there? INEOS. So for me, it's on INEOS now. They've got the right guy. They've done the right things. But the one thing they haven't done, and I would applaud them on a lot of things. I thought they were right to stick with Ten Hag after the FA Cup and give him a chance, and he burned that chance. And now they've got their own guy in. I thought they were right to spend money in the summer on the players that they did, and I think a lot of those players will still be good signings. But, and it's not their fault what's happening with Old Trafford, that's on the Glazers. So, and I like what they've done around the managerial team with the likes of Wilcox and Ashworth and Barada and Fivel. So I like a lot of what INEOS have done. But the one thing they haven't done, and the one thing Man United haven't done for years, is clear the shit. You look at the toxicity in the fan base, some of it isn't the fan base's fault. We have seen enough of certain players to know we don't want them in Man United shirts. And yet every season we have to pretend that it's going to be good enough. INEOS are contributing to that just as much as the Glazers. They've got to start clearing these players out. They cannot present to us, the fans, and another manager, let's just give them another go. Let's give them another go. That's their big win now. They've got their management team. They've got their manager. They've got the coaches coming with him. There's stuff going on off the pitch around structure and stadia. The big thing now is to sort out the biggest thing of all. Make some big decisions around players and get rid of them. And get him, this new manager, the players that he needs. The Deadwood's got to go. Right, I want to go through some more Amorim comments, but I can't wait on this. If you missed the show a couple of mornings ago, we had an amazing message from Pedro from Portugal, who has started watching the United stand since Mourinho came in, but is a Porto Sporting fan. And basically, just a massive amount of detail on how Amorim works, personality, etc. Well, he sent me this, and I think this is new information. I think this is really good. So basically, this is squad players that gained or occupied new positions since they signed for Sporting. And the parameters of this is that Amorim really does adapt players that he's already got and makes them into other positions as well. So when you look at... Well, I'll bullet point what Pedro said. He said, look, Amorim creates his mid-wingers mainly from original attacking wingers, not standard left or right backs. So when you're talking about mid-wingers, if you watched the game last night, you got your 3 centre-backs and your 2 wing-backs, whatever. But as Pedro is saying, Amorim tends to create those players from original attacking wingers, not from standard left or right backs. So those wide players do tend to be wingers for Amorim, that he turns into mid-wingers who can burst forward when they've got the ball, which we saw last night, but when you haven't got the ball, can become part of the back five. So it's not necessary. Look, he may need to adapt. He may well use Luke Shaw and Dalot and Mazraoui, but he might not. He might use wingers in those positions. Almost all adaptations are found on mid-wingers and centre-backs. So basically, most of his adaptations come from centre-backs and wingers. Centre-forwards must be able to play as left or right forwards as well. Original right or left backs with good marking skills can be easily adapted to right or left centre-backs. So we've spoken about that before. Mazraoui, who's got very good marking skills as a fullback, could easily find himself playing in the back three for Manchester United, and I think we've spoken about that before. In the 5-year spell of Amorim at Sporting, there's not a single case of adaptation of other positions into a centre-forward, defensive midfielder or a middle centre-back. Clearly, they are specialist roles in the teams. So what he's basically saying is that there's a lot of adaptation with Amorim, turning fullbacks into, right or left-sided centre-backs, turning wingers into wing-backs, but there is no single case of Amorim ever turning a centre-forward or a defensive midfielder or a middle centre-back, turning somebody into that. So those are key roles where he wants specialists. Half of the squad has gained a new role during their stay since they've arrived at the club. The mid-wingers recruitment is obviously very restricted because few teams play 3-4-3. So Amorim tends to prefer an adaptation instead of a conditioned signing. So those wide players will tend to be wingers that get adapted rather than actually buying somebody because it's quite specialist. Not many people play with a 3-4-3. And the agility to shape players has been constant since the day one of Amorim. And just to give you an example of some of those players, so